I read the article that you've written in the Telegraph criticising the former Defence Secretary Ben Wallace, saying that he doesn't actually really understand this conflict. Would you like to elaborate on your comments?
Yeah, well, Ben Wallace has essentially accused the IDF of a series of war crimes, including indiscriminate bombing, forcible movement of populations, and disproportionality. He suggests that Israel is involved in some kind of killing spree. Those aren't quite his words, but it was something like that.
It was killing. It was killing rage, Richard. He said Benjamin Netanyahu is gripped by a killing rage, I think was the language he used.
Yes, and that of course is far from the truth. What Ben Wallace does not attempt to explain is what the IDF should be doing in the light of the 7th of October massacres. He doesn't give an alternative, like so many other people. They're only too willing to criticise what the IDF is doing, but they're not willing to suggest a better way of doing it, or any other way of doing it, in fact.
Richard, of course, Ben Wallace, longest-serving Defence Secretary for this country since the Second World War, a former soldier, having served himself with the Scots Guards in Northern Ireland. You would think that he would understand what his language meant here. The referring to collective punishment, as he did in his article, is implying, is going beyond implying, is actually an accusation that the Israeli Defence Force, led by Benjamin Netanyahu, have committed war crimes. That's a very, very serious allegation for such as former defence minister and a very senior politician to make, isn't it?
It's an extremely serious accusation, which is why I wrote the article in the Telegraph to correct what he was saying. And it's not just the fact that he is misrepresenting what the IDF is doing, badly misrepresenting and slandering them in effect, but also this sort of comment, when it isn't based on reality, and I'm sure it is not based on reality, it's very, very dangerous because, one, it gives succor to Hamas. It encourages Hamas to think that there are people around the world in serious positions, or formerly in serious positions, who kind of see their perspective and see their point of view. And secondly, by alleging IDF war crimes like this without any basis, he encourages, and I'm sure he doesn't mean to do so, but he does in fact encourage the Jew hate that has been gripping London since this conflict began. And it can only make that situation worse. If it had good foundation and it was right and reasonable, I wouldn't have a difficulty with it, to tell the truth. But it is not the truth. It's far from it.
And you say that it's a bit of a well-worn path, people criticising from the sidelines with no idea about what the solution should be. It seems clear to me from the statements by our Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, and David Cameron, jointly with the German Foreign Secretary, and what we're hearing out of the United States, there's going to be significant pressure brought on the government of Israel to change tactics, to go to a much more targeted approach in terms of destroying the threat from Hamas. What would that look like on the ground?
Well, these people say this sort of thing, and people encouraged the IDF to do this from the start, but those people don't have the experience the IDF has. They don't really, okay, they may have experience in other conflicts, Afghanistan and Iraq, where these tactics were tried and actually did not succeed. But the IDF understand what they're doing, and they know that they're not going to achieve the destruction of Hamas, which is absolutely vital for the survival of Israel, by pinpoint targeted raids in such a tough environment. This is not Afghanistan, it's not Iraq, and it's certainly not what Ben Wallace kind of compares it to, which is Northern Ireland. It's far, far different from that. So I think many of these remarks that are being made, including comments by other politicians that say Israel should observe the laws of war, Israel should reduce the number of civilians it's killing, these people know that that's already happening. They know Israel rigidly adheres to the laws of war and does everything it can to prevent civilian casualties. The reason they're saying this is not because they think it's true. It's because in many cases, like, for example, Joe Biden and Rishi Sunak, because they want to appease the anti-Israel sections of their electorate. They're trying to play both sides, and it's a very dangerous game for the reasons I explained, because it does imply Israel's committing war crimes, which it is not, and it stirs up anti-Jewish hate.